Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filings so you don't have to. Today we're diving into Indie Semiconductor's recent proxy statement. Buckle up, because this document is packed with information about their upcoming annual meeting and of course executive compensation. What's interesting is when you read between the lines about how a company is doing financially, you'll find information about the company's future. This proxy statement gives us a sneak peek into what Indie Semiconductor has planned for the next year. They're holding the annual meeting on June 4, 2025, and stockholders will be voting on some important proposals, including electing directors and approving executive pay. It's a virtual meeting this year again, and you have to register online beforehand. One of the main things stockholders will vote on is electing 3 Class I directors to the board. These directors will serve until the 2028 annual meeting. Basically, they're choosing who will help guide the company for the next few years. Another vote is on executive compensation. It's advisory, meaning it's not binding, but it gives stockholders a chance to say whether they think the top executives are being paid fairly. They're also asking for approval to increase the number of authorized shares of Class A common stock. This is like asking for permission to print more money. It gives the company more flexibility to issue stock in the future, which can be used for things like acquisitions or raising capital. But it can also dilute the value of existing shares. There's also a proposal to increase the number of shares available under their equity incentive plan. This plan is how they compensate employees with stock, which helps align their interests with the company's success. Finally, stockholders will be asked to ratify the appointment of KPMG as their independent auditor. This is like getting a second opinion on their financial statements to make sure everything is on the up and up. Looking at the board's qualifications, it's clear they value experience in areas like semiconductor design, automotive manufacturing, and finance. They want directors with executive leadership, corporate governance, and M&A experience. It's all about having a well-rounded board that can guide the company in the right direction. The filing shows how much the non-employee directors were paid. For example, David Aldrich earned about $67,000 in cash and received stock awards worth about $175,000. So his total compensation was about $142,000. Now let's move to executive compensation. This is the exciting stuff everyone cares about, and the board has determined how and why these people are paid that way. The company had overall net revenues of $206 million, down 2.29% on the prior fiscal year. They are saying that despite a challenging automotive market, they demonstrated strong resilience. In August 2024, they approved a temporary salary reduction at the request of the named executive officers to conserve cash and support the company's drive to profitability. We believe the executives' proactive commitment to voluntarily reduce their base salaries demonstrates their commitment to the company and its focus on achieving profitability. For executive pay, much of it is at-risk compensation, meaning it's based on how well the company performs. The percentages below are based on full annual salary amounts and exclude the all other compensation amounts set forth in our summary compensation table. Base salary accounts for about 11% of the CEO's compensation, but makes up more of the other named executive officers' total pay, at around 25% on average. That's the cash in their pockets no matter what. Long-term incentives, made up of restricted stock units and stock price target awards, make up a lion's share of the CEO's pay at almost 78% and 61% for the other execs. This encourages them to think about the long-term health of the company, not just short-term earnings and benefits. This corporation seems to have some good governance policies in place. There are things like an independent compensation committee, stock ownership guidelines, and a clawback policy. In determining pay for the CEO, the Compensation Committee not only considers the compensation advice and analysis provided by its compensation consultant and publicly available information of compensation offered by the applicable comparative market data, but also reviews the Aon survey data and takes into consideration other relevant factors. Here's the deal on base salaries. The CEO, Donald McClymont, kept his salary at $400,000. The other executives also mostly stayed put, except for Kanwadev Raja Singh Bal, who got a bump to $345,000 with his COO role. To save money, the Compensation Committee approved temporary decreases to the base salaries of certain named executive officers. The CEO reduced his annual base salary to $1 on a temporary basis, and others reduced by 20% per year. Now, for those potential bonus payments, the target for CEO McClymont was 100% of his base salary. The other executives had smaller targets because none of the 3 goal components were reached, no payments were made. The compensation committee awarded more time-based RSUs relative to performance-based RSUs to support retention efforts in this transitional year for the company and in light of the competitive nature of the talent market. As a retention mechanism, they granted RSU for a fixed number of shares. Donald McClymont got 325,000 and the other named executives lower numbers in the tens of thousands. With these PRSUs and other numbers of company performance in mind, Donald and team get very little or nothing. The number of earned units could increase with overachievement to an aggregate maximum of 200% of the target number of units subject to the awards, or could decrease for underachievement of the performance goals with the possibility of no units being earned. It seems that there might not be any big bonuses this year. In 2024, the committee approved stock price target-based RSU awards, which are RSUs that are earned based on the company's achievement of a pre-established stock price target set by the compensation committee during an established performance period. The executives have employment agreements that spell out what happens if they're terminated or there's a change in control. It includes payments for salary, bonus, pseudo recovery awards, Pulbra coverage, and accelerated vesting of equity awards. Lastly, all the executives are prohibited from hedging transactions or taking investment decisions that are opposite to the company and are barred from pledging shares. This avoids the executives betting against their own team or putting incentives against the company goals. To end with, let's take a look at the pay versus performance section, a required item to measure compensation. So when we look at the graph between executives and performance in 2024, we had this situation. As the selected measure, it's important that the non-GAAP measures increase. The more positive, the better. Oh, and one last thing. As disclosed in the company's current report on Form 8K filed on April 8, 2025, Mr. Bale notified the company of his resignation as CFO. So what's the takeaway? Indie Semiconductor is trying to navigate a tough market and they're using a combination of cash and equity to motivate their executives. There may be concerns about conserving cash as the team decided to forfeit their salaries and no bonuses were awarded due to not meeting goals. But overall, the compensation seems aligned with performance, but there's risk involved to attract and retain key talent. That's it for this episode of Corporate Decoder. If you found this helpful, give us a thumbs up, subscribe for more deep dives, and let us know in the comments what companies you want us to decode next.